Okay, I think we're live. I think we are. Yes, I do believe we are live. Okay, so here we go. Hello, everybody, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. Uh, we're going to do a little comic making today. So let's open up Clip Studio Paint. Actually, where we go? We're going to do a little bit of Willis Henry. I should have set this up beforehand. 21, 25. All right, so this is going to be a little test, little short demonstration on how I make comics. So I just opened up 5 pages in a project that I'm doing. Uh, what am I doing? First, I got to do my intro. Uh, Hello, Solar people. This is Trey Hodges, and today we're going to do comics, or how I do comics. Now, I haven't been doing comics for an eternity, but I thought this might be pretty interesting. So, I've already started a project, but just in case, I'll show you how I got here. So first, if you ever wanted, this is done in Clip Studio Paint, which I used to do this in Photoshop, but I find Photoshop doesn't have all the all the stuff that I think is slightly important or makes things just a lot easier. You can do all of this in Photoshop, but I think Clip Studio Paint makes it a whole lot easier because I've done it in Photoshop and now I'm doing it in Clip Studio Paint. So first off, how I make this whole thing that I have right now. So on the keyboard, Command N or Command New. Now this thing pops up if you have the program open, and I have already all this set up. But on the top right here, the user work, there's these little buttons, icons up top, and one is illustration. The next is comics in brief, right? Then a fanzine, right? Printing a fanzine. And then show all comic settings. I use this one, show all comic settings, with this fourth from the left. And now I have all this stuff inputted already. And this I got from another guy, Scott Drummond, I believe his name is. When I go, this is a private video, but when I go into the next one, I'll give you his details, or I'll have it linked in the description. But I have width at 7, height 10.75. The resolution is 1200. Yes, 1200. That is super large. Paper color white. Comic settings, width 6.63, height 10.25, bleed width is 0.13, default border and inner size, and I'll show you what that means from the demonstration in just a moment. That is 6.13, and this is the default borders, inner. Width 6.13, height 9.75. X offset and Y offset are 0. And what I like about using this is multiple pages here at the bottom. I have this checked, multiple pages. Number of pages, I have 25, but 24 is a standard. All right, so here are some of the standards. 1, 2, 4, 8, 12, 16, 24, and 32. 24 is usually like the basics of a comic. Usually a comic can be around 22 to 24 pages. There are usually ads in, say, Marvel, DC, so it's usually 22 pages out of 24 as a normal page count. I have 25, and I'll tell you what those reasons are a little bit later. I have binding point from the left binding. And there's some other stuff on this side, but I usually don't mess with that. And so we hit OK. Actually, I'm going to change this to 4. 4 as the page number, because this is just a short demonstration. I'm going to get out of that and go to our regular. So OK. And up here you see what we have. The 4 pages. First page is a right-hand page. And then when you turn that page, it'll be number 2 on the left-hand side. Again, the right-hand side would be page 3. And then if you turn that page, page 4 is another left-hand side page. So this is the basics of pages. I'll show you in my other one how we do it. But I click into it, it brings it up. But I like to arrange it slightly differently in that I put the pages off to the side. So when I see the red, I place it in there, and then I scale it. Well, I shift it over so that I can just see the pages. Again, right page, left, right, left. So this is page 1. And this is just how I start my pages. But let's go back to what I've already done. So let's get rid of that. Get rid of that. Okay. So here we have 5 pages. We're going to click into this one. This is page 21 of 100. I'm doing a project right now. And so here is the page. So I usually have folders when I'm doing comics. So this total page, it doesn't start off like this already. If we look on the left hand side, we have the files. And so far I have one folder, and it's the holder early. I put all of my early stuff in a folder called holder early. And then there's usually one blank layer, and I place that above my holder early. So I want to open it, and I already have in here a comic page template, and I always put it in. All right, so boop. Here it is. Page 22 has the same thing. All right, and I'll show you how I place the comic page in by File, Import, Image. Again, that's File, Import, Image. Go to Image, and then I have all my stuff is usually in one file for a particular project. This is the Willis Henry Chapter 4 project, and I have different parts and other sketches and other versions of just the pages, but I have a page with just the template. All right. Template, I open that, it brings it in a little small, so then I take it to the edges. Expand it to the edges. Right. Okay. So I always bring in a template page. Now, blank, how it comes up regularly is like this. This is what the page looks like when it opens or brings it up in Clip Studio Paint without me adding the comic template that I put on top of all this. And it has the inner line. Right, this is where we're going to start our frames. And then there's outside of that another border. And I usually try to keep everything within this border. And then there's another outside line. which I would imagine is the trim line. If it was going to be printed, your stuff would be trimmed here. Right. Now, why I have the comic template page is because I also, like, for, as a standard for comics, right? This is a standard comic page. Standard comic page, it has the bleeds, the blue lines for the bleeds, the framing, it has little checks for, or right, little markers so that you know where a panel can be, where the center is, right, how you can divide this all up, and that's why I like it. And plus, it's been used for decades upon decades, and I like to have it just in case I want to print things like in a standard Marvel or DC Image Comics, the standard base standard form. I bring this in just so I know where those marks are, just in case if you ever get a job for DC, Marvel, Image, right? It's nice to have this as something that you are aware of and are familiar with. So let's look at some of the stuff on it. It has at the top the date, the name, your name, the date, the book, what's the book called, what's the issue number, what is the page, what is the number of this page, right? And there's also little guides and words like all bleed art must extend to the solid line. Right? Prints at 67%. Keep all lettering inside the live area, which is this. Right? Keep all important information within this center, the most center blue line. Because back in the day, they had to take it to a printer, the printer would cut it, and sometimes the cutting wouldn't be always exact. So it was nice to have a rule or a guide to know where the bleeds are, what to keep your most important information within, so things don't get cut. But I like to have both versions, what Clip Studio Paint makes and then what the standard is. I always like to have that. So let's size this back down. And now we're going to make some borders. So I have in the holder early, I have the page, the comic template. I don't need this, but I'll keep it. And then I file, import image. I go to my file, find the page. I usually have an early version, thumbnail version of a page. So we're looking for the thumbnail version of page 21. Got it. We open it. And then we size this up. Size it up, so I bring it to the corners. Bring it to the corners. And so, again, this is in the holder early file. And let's go to number 2, page 22, and do the same thing. We already have our comic template in there. But again, file, import, image. We'll get page 22, which I believe this is. Yes. Page 22. Open that. Scale it up. Scale it up. Now in my thumbnails, well, I'll talk about that in a moment. Let's do one more page. Also, Command S to save. Always save. Always save. So Command S. Or File, Save. Since it just did it, we're good. Page 23, we'll do one more. File, import image, find page 23, open that, scale it up, scale it up, since we're on a roll, we'll just keep doing it until for the 5 pages. File, import image. This is page 24. 24. And scale this. Scale it up until it hits the edges. Until it hits the edges. Okay. And last one, well, Command S to save. And we give it a moment. All right. 25. Again, file, import, image, page 25. Open it. Again, scale it up. Scale it up. And save. Command S to save. Now, it depends on how big your comic project is. It could be 24 pages, 48 pages, or anything within that. It could even be 4. I think 4 is a great place to start if it's your first comic, because that is the most basic form of a comic. The first page, the middle page is where the most of the meat of the story is, and the end is the conclusion. But let's go to, let's save this. I forgot to save it. So we're going to save this, and then we'll talk about how I normally do my pages. Okay, that's saved. And now I usually do thumbnails, or a thumbnail version, my earliest version, on a piece of paper. Just a standard 8.5 by 11 paper. I rough out what my pages will look like, the left pages, right pages, and try to see how they would turn, right? Page turn. How does it read? How does it look? And then I work that up in Photoshop. I usually save that as an SKS, a sketch version. I name all my sketches as a name and then SK for sketch. And then I usually bring them in, put all those into a file that I have in a larger file for the comic project. And then I can just bring those in as needed, like you just saw me do. So now once we have the holder early, now we can make more files. So we go to this layer that is empty, and from there we make 2 more folders. 1, 2. We're going to name this bottom folder text. Text. And we're going to name the top folder frames or panels. I usually name them frames. Frames and panels. All right, okay. So in the panel, the frame one, we are going to make frames or borders for these panels. So let's do that. U is the shortcut, but also on the far left, we see the tools, and it's right here. Frame borders. The shortcut hotkey is U. So I hit U again, and here it is. Divide frame borders, but we don't want this yet. We go to create frame. Create frame. Make sure the frame is going to be black. It could be a color if you want it to be a color. but we want black. We go to this innermost and we drag out, and then we let go. Once it'll snap to it. So inside is what we have. The purple part is outside. So outside of the border, inside. And now we go to cut frame border. Cut frame border, which is right next to create frame. So cut frame border. Now you can do this in two ways. Divide frame folders, which will put every panel and make it its own folder. But since we're so early in the project, I like to do divide frame border. And that's the bottom choice, divide frame border. And so once that's checked, hold down shift, hold it down, and then I estimate where the panel is going to be. And I make, there you go. Right, and why did I hold down shift? I held down shift so it keeps it from spinning. Right, it'll spin. So you can make diagonals and other types of frames, but I don't want that right now. So Command Z to undo, hold down shift, estimate where the panel is, and I usually go horizontal first and then verticals. So horizontal, and then I go verticals. So about here. And you'll also notice that my, we call them the gutters or panel borders, right? The space in between each panel. On my horizontals, it's slightly thicker than my vertical. Right, and you can set that in properties. So we have our panels, and what I like to do is now I like to adjust them. It's going to save, and there we go. Okay, you good? There you go. All right, so now let's collapse this frame down and put that actual in the frame folder. Frame folder, put it in there, and there you go. Now that we have the frames, hit O is the hotkey. It's also the object in the toolbar, or operations, and you'll see a red line around the panels that you just made, and that means we can now adjust the panels. Now if we zoom in, you see this little triangle. This little triangle means it'll take this panel border all the way to the edge. So if I hit it all the way to the edge, on the three sides, all the way to the edge, all the way to the edge. Right? That's if you wanted that full going to the edge border, but I don't want that. So Command Z to undo that, and now I will do that. O for operation. Not in the files. There we go. Now I want to adjust them manually. And this is where the panel templates or frame template for that Clip Studio Paint gave you, and the one that I brought in from just a comic page template. That's where this comes in handy, because now I can estimate where I want my borders to be. I can keep it comics accurate and take it to those lines. if I so choose. But usually it can depend on how I want to arrange my panels. For what I would call establishing shots, like if you're going from one scene to a totally different scene and you want to establish where this whole setting is, like say you're going from a desert to a jungle, you want to establish that you're now in a jungle instead of people wondering, okay, what happened? You were just in a desert. So you want to establish a shot. Those ones I usually do as a full, going to the full bleed. Right? It goes, the panel edges go to the very edges. Usually. There are also other circumstances that I can shift depending on how I want my panels. But let's see. Sometimes I want tighter panels, sometimes I want bigger panels. It all depends on how I'm feeling and what the story calls for, how I'm feeling about the story. Do you want emotional openness, which you can indicate with some panel altering? Do you want somebody to feel claustrophobic and trapped? You can make the panels smaller in that case. So that looks good to me. So that is panels, and I can close that. And now let's talk about text. So we'll go to the text. Well, actually, we'll go to this empty layer just below the text. Now for text, I hit T as the hotkey, or it's this A symbol on the toolbar. Text, short for T as the hotkey. T, hit T twice, and then this comes up on the left hand side. Round balloon, ellipse balloon, curved balloon I don't really use, balloon pen I don't really use, balloon tails I use a lot, and thought balloon tails I also use for thinking. But I usually use ellipse balloon the most. So let's do ellipse balloon. And so it already, right, you'll notice that it goes into the frame panels area. Now I don't want that, but we can work with this for now. T, hit T again, and it'll bring up the thing where you can type. You press into the balloon, and now you can type some dialogue. So let's say my character is saying, "What?" with a question mark, and maybe he's a little shocked, so a question mark, exclamation point. Now this isn't really the context for it, but it could be. Sometimes I write in the text that I'm going to use, and other times not so much. Now, once the thing is typed, there are these three icons. X will cancel or close out. The check mark just takes you out of it. It'll close it. And this little pencil, let's hit that one, and this little sub tool detail comes up, and now I can increase the size of the text. If I go back, highlight the text, and then I can increase the size of the font. I can decrease the size. 8 is the standard I have, but for extreme shock I can go up to 14 usually, and that usually between 8 and 14 is how large I will go. How small, I'll usually go to a 6 if, say, I think that they're whispering. but let's do 8. I can close that and hit the check mark. Now hit O, or operations. Right, O is the hotkey, and I can adjust the bubble. So I can make it doesn't look like the text is swimming in this balloon. Now I don't want it too small, and I don't want it too big. And now I'm using the arrows to move this around. Let's get it closer. And let's say, well, now that I have it all done, I take that layer and I move it into the text folder. I always like to put it in the text folder. And now I go to the layer below with nothing in it and make another word balloon. So again, hit T twice. It's already on ellipse balloon, and let's say this person is going to clarify. So now that we have the balloon, hit T again, press that into the balloon, and now write your text. And he'll say it's a trap. Let's say he speaks properly. It is a trap. Right. And since I don't want to change the size, because he's just speaking normally, I can hit the check mark. Yep. Hit O, operational, is the third button on the toolbar, or O is the shortcut hotkey, and we can scale that so that it sits better. And I can move it again with the arrows to get it adjusted properly. Now for balloon tails, hit T twice. And then instead of ellipse balloon, we'll go to balloon tail. And for balloon tails, I can press into the balloon. I like to press a little bit outside of the balloon, and then it curves, right? The tail curves. It's towards the mouth. And double tap if you want to end the double tap. Oh, I accidentally triple tap. Double tap, and that'll end the tail. Command Z to undo that unwanted tail. And then I press into the other word balloon and say he's also tap out, and then curve that towards his mouth, double tap. And that is, and let's move this into the text folder. Right. So that is, they are talking to each other. Command S to save. Now this is an early form of a page, right? There's no backgrounds. The characters are barely sketched in. I do another round of drawing to tighten it up, to make it, because who Willis Henry is talking to doesn't have a face at all, right? So I shape it up, and then before I do an inking pass. Inking pass is when I pretty much have everything down and ready to go. So we save that. Let's try another page. Okay, so this is a better, right? This one has the text written by hand and where the paneling is. Now there's a lot of panels, there's a lot of text, and whether I can or can't fit all of this, we shall see. But again, this is another page. I'll collapse down the holder early folder, go to the blank layer, and then make 2 folders. 1, 2. Name the bottom folder text, and name the top folder frames or panels. Frames. Oops, did not double tap. Okay, frames, panels, frames/panels, frames _ panels. Okay, so we go to the text. Well, actually, we stay in the frames folder, and we're going to do our U for the borders, right, or the paneling. Frame border is right this rectangle with a 2 slashes in it is the icon for frame borders, or the hotkey or shortcut key is U. Hit U twice. I go to create frame, make sure it's black, and if I want to holder folder, make the template go away, just so I can show you. Right, this is what Clip Studio Paint gives you. I'm in the frames panel. Take that corner, drag it out. Right, this is the innermost box. Let go. It makes the border. The purple is outside of the border. The inside is all the live area, pretty much. Now I go to cut frame borders and make sure it's on divide frame borders, unless you want every panel to be its own folder. For simplicity, I use divide frame borders, especially in the early stages. In later stages, I can chop it up into, but let's bring our 2 guides back. Okay. Let's collapse this frames down and put that into the frame folder. Now, O is for the operational button. The icon is the 3rd one from the top. Operation, or O, is the hotkey. The line turns red, and I can, what? I forgot something. And that is, that's not, let's go back to the U. We forgot to make all the borders. Okay, so hold shift, because I want a straight line. And it used to go, again, horizontal first. Horizontal, 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 horizontal. And then verticals next. Vertical, 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 and one more. Okay, so now I have all my panels. Now I can go to operational. Operational, O is the hot, right? And all the panels have the red borders, and now I can adjust them. The little blue dot can help you. And I bring it out. I usually keep the in-between gutters the same. I just work the outside ones. And there we go. Let's extend this out. Extend this out. And let's leave these two the same. This one just a little bit larger. Just a little bit. And let's say this panel goes all the way to the edges. So hit the little triangle. Triangle. Oh, did not do it. Triangle. And triangle. Oh, triangle again. Alright, so that means it's totally expanded, that he's just about to take off. For a little bit of visual pizzazz, let's say. So now that we have the frames, now let's go to the text. So go to the layer below the text folder. It's that blank one. Hit T twice. T twice. Go to ellipse balloon. Within the panel, let's see. I usually make the balloons larger than I think I need, but sometimes I misjudge it. Hit the T again to bring up the text. Touch within the circle, within the balloon, and type out, I hate to impose, I hate to. Do I want it 2 balloons or 1 balloon? It sounds like 2. I hate to impose, ... but I have a request. So I hate to, TO. I hate to impose, what do we, ... Hit the check mark, hit O, and now I can adjust it around the text. I don't want it too cramped. I don't want it like this, but I also don't want it like this. So you got to find that happy medium. And if I hit K, K is the move. I can take all of it and move it. I hate to impose. And we're going to T again, T twice, T twice. We're back to the ellipse balloon. We'll make another balloon. Hit T again, touch inside. Now you see there's a bigger box that encompasses the first one and also this one. So this means that these 2 balloons are on the same layer. And that means I can join them after. And I'll show you how I do that in just a moment. But let's first type out the text. I hate to impose, but, comma, but I have a request. I'd say he's just about to ask for something. Now, usually I like to have the balloons even. I don't like usually the bottom word to be longer than the 2 top. So let's adjust this. But I have a request. I like to have the bottom word sit underneath a longer line above it. Okay, hit the check mark and O for operation. Now for this, right, it would adjust both of them together, and I don't want that. So Command Z, undo that. Now touch the balloon itself that you want to adjust, and then adjust the balloon. Again, not too tight, not swimming in it, just the right size. And then get that a little bit closer with the arrow keys. Now, hit return. Or spacebar. No. I guess just touch out of it. Touch out of it. I hate to impose. Let's bring that into the text folder. All right, so these two balloons are on the same layer. So now when I hit T twice, we'll go to balloon tail, touch the first, inside the first one, the first balloon, and then I like to touch just outside of the balloon, and then into the next balloon. And double tap it so it ends that. Now we're going to make another tail. Touch within the second balloon, touch slightly out, and then curve it towards his mouth, and then double tap, hit K again, K, and we can move it. So say I want this balloon to be just a little bit adjusted. So we go to operation, touch this balloon, and then move it just a little bit. But usually I try to have things about where I want it. All right, touch outside of it. And that is the balloons. So let's take away. Right, this is how it looks just with the panels, without the character thumbnail, I would say, rough sketch, if you will. And this is without the page template, comic page template. This is what it looks like. Right. So we've come a long way. So comic page, bring that back. Bring back our art. And that is how I start a comic page. Right. So this is the fundamentals. All right. So, thank you for joining me. I have been Trey Hodges. You can find my work at treyhodges.com. And I will see you in the next video. Take care and keep shining. And I think as we wrap up, this is probably going to be what I do for the summer. I have an idea for comics that I'm working on. I'm working on multiple things at one time. But since summer is going to be kind of, I'll be in and out. I have a family, and maybe I'll go out and touch some grass and, you know, enjoy summer with the family and all of that. We're going to go into a comics summer schedule, which is, I don't know exactly how much or how often I'll be on YouTube. I will return for more regular videos in September. I think my nieces and nephews go back to school like August, mid-August or whatever. So that's usually when I'll start ramping back up into end of the year work mode. But until then, this will be in a bit of a flux for a summer schedule. I hope you also have a chance to go out, see your friends, have fun, go see movies, hopefully some barbecues. Barbecues are great. But until then, I will see you in the next video. Take care and keep shining. Bye.